I'm really sorry that I have to stand and say this, but when women are beaten, it is not the women that think that is love. It is the men. So it's not the women. No woman wants to be beaten. So I want to just correct him that if the men are beating their wives, it's not the women that think that's a way of love. It's the other way around. They think it's love because they dominate the women. Patriarchy in Africa is dead and has to end. That's why we have our own meeting in New York. Where do the men go to meet? We go to New York to meet every year, CSW, to discuss the agenda of women, and we never discuss men.
Esther Passaris of Kenya.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise to support the adoption of this report and commend the Women's Caucus for ensuring that Africa's voice was heard at CSW 70. 30 years after Beijing Declaration, Africa has made progress. More women are in leadership, more girls are in school, and we have stronger continental legal instruments to protect our women and our girls. However, our challenge is no longer the absence of commitment. Our challenge is implementation. We must ensure that the Maputo Protocol, the African Union Convention on the Elimination of Violence Against Women and Girls, and other gender instruments are ratified, domesticated, adequately funded, enforced, and monitored by every member state. Mr. President, we must also confront the patriarchal system, discriminatory social norms, and gender stereotypes that continue to restrict women's access to education, economic opportunity, political financing, decision-making. These barriers cannot be removed through declarations alone. Our national laws, policies, and budgets must deliberately dismantle them. Sexual gender-based violence remains one of the greatest barriers to women's freedom, dignity, and participation. Survivors need more than sympathy. They need protection, healthcare, safe spaces, access to justice, accountability for perpetrators. We must also confront violence against women in politics because no woman should be intimidated, threatened, or abused for choosing to serve in her country. The report highlights the link between education, justice, leadership, and leadership. Child marriages, adolescent pregnancies, school gender-based violence, and inadequate menstrual health support continue to push girls out of schools. School re-entry policies for adolescent mothers must be implemented so that pregnancy does not become the permanent sentence of a girl's future. The Maputo Protocol must therefore live beyond the speeches. Its principles must be reflected in the services that protect health, dignity, and the rights of women and girls. Mr. President, I also welcome the focus on digital transformation and artificial intelligence. Technology can expand access to justice, public services, and political participation, but it is also exposing women to online violence, cyber harassment, and digital exclusion. We need gender-responsive digital laws that protect women while ensuring they benefit from innovation. Mentorship must also be institutionalized. Experienced women leaders must deliberately prepare the next generation, including young women and women with disability. I rise to support the adoption of this report and commend the Committee on Education, Culture, Tourism, and Human Resource for its participation in the workshop convened by the African Union, International Center for Girls and Women Education in Africa, together with the Organization of African First Ladies for Development and UN Women. The report acknowledges the progress Africa has made in enrolling more girls in schools. However, enrollment is not enough. Too many girls still fail to complete secondary and tertiary education because of poverty, child marriage, early pregnancies, gender-based violence, harmful social norms, and unsafe learning environment. These challenges are even greater for girls in rural areas, conflict-affected communities, and displacement camps, as well as girls with disability. Mr. President, educating a girl transforms more than one's life. It strengthens a family, a community, and the entire nation. Girls' education must therefore be treated as an investment in Africa's human capital and economic future. I welcome the emphasis of the Africa Union Convention on the elimination of violence against women and girls. However, conventions must be domesticated, adequately funded, and enforced. Survivors need protection, healthcare, safe spaces, access to justice, and accountability for perpetrators. I also welcome phase 2 of the Africa Educates Her campaign, particularly its focus on returning out of school girls to education. Adolescents' pregnancies must not become a permanent sentence against a girl's future. Effective school re-entry programs must be implemented alongside menstrual health support and safe, inclusive learning environments. The emphasis on vocational and digital skills is equally important. Not every girl will follow the same educational pathway, but every girl deserves the skills, opportunities, and necessary to learn and to earn an income and live with dignity. Mr. President, Parliament has direct responsibility. We pass laws, approve budgets, and exercise oversight. Member states should transform reports on their allocations for girls, education, school safety, teacher training, and gender-responsive programs. The continental dashboard must help us identify progress, expose gaps, and hold governments accountable. Let us transform Africa Educates Her from a campaign into a continental parliamentary movement, one that shapes laws, scrutinizes budgets, and protects the right of every African girl to learn, lead, and thrive.